The issue concerning Nnamdi Kanu is causing many Nigerians now sleepless nights. This video will show you that both Hausas, Yorubas want the release of Nnamdi Kanu because Nnamdi Kanu needs justice. Nnamdi Kanu is not healthy. He needs medical attention, and without releasing him, he will not get proper medical attention. And most importantly, this young man has been in detention for years without justice. At least let the federal government tell us exactly what they find out concerning this man. Yet every time he is going to court, conclude this case, let Nigerians know everything concerning Nnamdi Kanu. Yet nothing was concluded every time Nnamdi Kanu is facing trial. When will all this end? When will all this drama end? Now, Nigerians have started protesting for justice over this young man, an innocent man who is agitating for the freedom of his people because he says that his people is being marginalized. Yes, all the region has 6 states, but only southeast, from where Nnamdi Kanu came from, have 5 states. That one enough can tell you that his region is highly marginalized. Now watch this video as Sowore is protesting for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Not only him, many Nigerians. Watch this.
So, is there likely to be an end to the ordeal of Nnamdi Kanu anytime soon? Or is he now likely to wither away in perpetual detention as his supporters fear? The IPOB separatist leader has been incarcerated for over 10 years on charges of treasonable felony, despite various court orders and appeals for his release. Till date, he stands unconvicted, and for many champions of justice, his continued detention is both a travesty and a violation of his fundamental human rights. They say this exposes the widening gap between Nigeria's constitutional provisions of a right to a fair trial within a reasonable time and the daily realities of the citizens of this besmirched country, in a world in which the enduring principle and the cornerstone of the law is that every individual is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Well, today, a new call for action has been made by the human rights activist Omoyele Sowore, challenging Nigerians across ethnic lines to join him in a peaceful march to the Aso Rock presidential villa to demand Mr. Kanu's release, even as his health is reported to be fast deteriorating in custody. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the irrepressible human rights activist and former presidential candidate Omoyele Sowore. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
What has motivated you to take the step of calling on people to take to the streets to draw attention to the need to release Mr. Kanu?
It's a number of things, and one is that we're friends, and we've been friends for a long time. In fact, I was one of the few people through Sahara TV that interviewed Nnamdi Kanu when he was relatively unknown, before he was arrested the first time. And I met him in 2019 in New York, had a conversation about the struggle for his people, and we struck a friendship then. And I was here in Nigeria, myself, held up by the Nigerian government when he was extraordinary rendition from Kenya. In fact, I was one of the few people who ran to court by the time he had been taken to the DSS detention, where he had been deposited before, after he was kidnapped from Kenya. So, but the most important thing is that I understand the nature of justice, fair hearing, his constitutional right. And it is in his own case that you can say that he's presumed guilty and he's trying to prove his innocence, which is very sad. If you look at how long it has taken for all these court processes to take place, you know that Kanu's fate is not in the hands of the judiciary. If a decision was taken today by the owners of Nigeria to let him go, the judge might sit in the middle of the night and let him go. And by the way, on my way here, something happened. President Tinubu just pardoned 82 people. One of them was Herbert Macaulay, Nnamdi Kanu, of course, Farouk, who collected bribe from Otedola, a cocaine dealer who was in prison for life, and a fraudster. So if you can pardon this array of people and several others, I'm not asking for pardon for him, but it's a time to let Nnamdi Kanu go.
Is there a lot of public support for the release of Nnamdi Kanu, or is that difficult to gauge?
Oh, it's unprecedented. You know, I've been fighting for his release for a long time. I used to attend all his court trials. Under Buhari, I was attacked several times. Each time I went to court, I was attacked physically by the DSS, police, thugs. But this time around, I'm surprised at the number of known traditional people, you know what I mean, who are in support of it. In fact, there was a poll put up by, you know, it's not a scientific poll, by Tunde Edno's page, who's a major Instagram influencer. And out of 17,000 people, 92% of them support the call for his release and the protest that's been planned for 20th of October.
I understand you've tried to contact many leaders in the Southeast to take more public-facing action in support of Nnamdi Kanu's release. Have you been struck by their apparent lack of personal involvement and commitment to that cause?
I'm not shocked, because I think on your show I once declared that Kanu's predicament, his ordeal, is as a result of some persons in the Southeast who took a decision that his release would jeopardize their political career and future. That I know as far back as when Tinubu freshly became president, because I was part of some conversation to release him. And they said at that time, Imo elections are coming. If it comes out, APC might not win. And subsequently, I realized that some of the communiques you see is just, you know, word of mouth by day. When they go at night or when they meet Tinubu, it's likely that they have a different position. And when I started contacting them in the last 24 hours, I'm shocked. You know, some of them that I used to be able to reach just switched off their lines. The ones I sent messages never responded. I reached out to Soludo, who I know personally.
That's Charles Soludo, who is the governor of Anambra State.
No response till now. I reached out to Alex Oti. Alex Oti used to be a columnist for Sahara Reporters, so I know him personally. No response till now. The only response I got was a nominal response that no, we shouldn't have dragged us the way you did. Reached out to Peter Obi, they said he's in Rome. But I sent a message that, you know, you can behave as the Romans do too, you know, just be part of this. But some have been encouraging. Senator Abaribe, I reached out to him, he responded, he said, I'm in on this. And I know that Abaribe suffered when he was a shorty for Kanu. In fact, I was sleeping on Abaribe's bed at the DSS in 2019, shortly after he was released, because he was shorty for Nnamdi Kanu. So the rep from his state at the House of Rep also has signed up. A number of persons have signed up, some of them publicly, but there is no unified response from Southeastern political leaders or traditional rulers, or even the religious priesthood there, which many had expected would happen. But a lot of young people have signed up to this, and you can see that the Nigerian government is already pushing back because they've seen the response to be unequivocally in support of the release of Nnamdi Kanu at this time. I don't think they were expecting that such a response would be so favorable and swift.
So is this what you think is needed to push this Nnamdi Kanu issue over the line and perhaps change President Tinubu's view of Mr. Kanu, and not the sort of behind-the-scenes quiet diplomacy that has been going on since?
It's obvious that diplomacy cannot work. If it was going to work, by now it would have resolved the issue. I think they used the diplomacy or their proclamation about diplomacy to just make the public become a little lethargic about his release, so that nobody, oh, they're working on it, don't worry. Because we hear that a lot from Oti, who is the Abia State governor, that is working on this quietly. In fact, I was told in court about 2 weeks ago that he will be released on head grounds They had convinced everybody, only for him to come to court, and we kept changing goalposts, as we call it. So I don't think diplomacy has to be a combination of, you know, actions. And one of it, I think, is going to be a loud public disapproval of his continued detention, and a protest would work, in my view, in that regard. And that's why I want these people who claim to want him to be released to join the protest. Yes, because when they have issues, they do protest. You know, there's no major politician in this country that has never participated in the protest when their own private interests are at stake.
I was speaking to a group of Nigerian political campaigners recently, and they seem to think that mobilizing the Nigerian people for any kind of large-scale protest has become a sort of famously impossible thing to achieve. I mean, do you share that view?
Well, I don't. It's the same country in 2024 that Nigerians protested for 10 days straight in what was known as End Bad Governance struggle. Nigerians in 2020 did End SARS. It was a globally acclaimed resistance.
Well, to be fair, the End SARS was the last big protest.
Yes, but there was still a protest in 2024. It may not have been as big. What I'm saying is that, yes, there's been efforts to discourage Nigerians, and you know, when you go out there and kill people and charge them for offenses that are very grievous in nature, you're likely to discourage a country in which, you know, you have 139 million people who are living in abject poverty. They just want to go out there and get whatever they can and survive from day to day, hand to mouth. So, but I don't think that is impossible. What has been impossible is the unity of purpose, because they have figured out how to divide us, you know, along ethnicity. I remember in 2024, when we were planning End Bad Governance protest, we included the release of Nnamdi Kanu in that protest. And the Ohaneze Ndigbo, when I issued a statement that they are not part of the protest. So maybe by now, we would have gotten Nnamdi released. So there's also a lot of tactics used by Nigerian government to discourage people. And some of it is how they have made it open-ended to kill protesters, you know, implicate them in crimes that are insurmountable. You saw in 2024 how they charged children for treason. It's never happened anywhere in the world before. So, but I think the consciousness around this is great. And I also think that in some ways, Nigerians always love when things are happening in other places. They love the replica of it. You know, you notice that there's been a lot of chatter around Nepal, you know, and Morocco recently. So maybe, you know, that's also might be an inspiration.
Right, but I mean, are there lingering security-related things that are yet to be resolved around Mr. Kanu? I mean, can he, for instance, call on IPOB? I think he's called on them before, but again, to relinquish all forms of violence and all forms of threat to the Nigerian state. Will that be needed as well in order to convince the powers that be of Mr. Kanu's sincerity?
I think he made an open declaration in court where he said, give me 5 minutes if I'm released, I'm going to end the violence in the Southeast. He made the declaration in court last year. What does you want from him? And you are the government, at any rate, you have a duty to protect the public. It's not his job to protect the Southeast or the Southwest. But the truth is that I have said this, and I'll repeat again. If you are a Nigerian, you can get away with a lot of things. But if you are Igbo, Nigerian, you can't get away with a lot of things. Yes,
but you're not getting away. You're not getting away with much.
Yes, but the odds are stacked against you because you know you're coming with zero, and they will do it to you. I mean, it was in this country that there's a Yoruba nation movement. They even went and hijacked a radio station last year. You know, did you hear of any trial? Did you hear of any arrest? I'm not using that. I'm not saying that that should not be the case, but we must tell ourselves the truth. That it just doesn't look good that the Igbos are marginalized in every sector, including in the justice sector. You know, to get a trial wrapped up in 10 years is that so difficult to do, especially when you claim that you have evidence that this person has committed these grievous crimes. Nothing has been done. No, there's nobody who's been presented as a witness. The only witness that was presented in his case did not accuse him of any crime. He didn't say he found a gun on him or he was importing ammunition or weapons or had a grenade. He just said, well, he was making declaration that he wants Biafra. And I've checked the Nigerian Constitution, 1999 Constitution. There's nowhere it is stated that it's a crime to say that you want Biafra.
Yeah, well, I mean, you do have to, and not to sort of qualify what you're saying, but I mean, the person asking for a Yoruba nation is quite different from the Biafra issue, because Biafra, actually, there was a war in this country.
That's exactly what I'm telling you, that the laws are stacked against you.
That lasted quite some
Absolutely.
time. So in that context, and in that very narrow context, anything that appears to inflame that concept of, bringing back the memories of the war and all the things that happened, and in a sense threatening this country, is something that raises the hackles of people. But let me ask you this. I mean, you yourself have become a sort of master of the protests, if that can be described in polite terms. I mean, is that because you believe that over the years or over the decades, the mood of the times in this country has been politically dark and is getting darker?
Yes, I have always stated it that every president in Nigeria is worse than the last one. When Buhari left, everybody said this is going to be the worst. And after Buhari left, people were calling for the return of the Buhari regime. So that shows to you that
to be fair, I haven't heard a lot of people calling for the return.
I heard a lot of people who said, well,
I mean, in preference to the Tinubu regime.
I've heard people say, give us Buhari fuel price, give us Buhari's Naira.
Yes, I suppose in that sense, because the prices were lower. Yeah.
The same people also went and gave Buhari a rousing burial. So it doesn't look like they hate him. I was probably the only person who said, this guy don't deserve the kind of monumental, acclaim and cheerleading that followed his burial. But that's a conversation for another day, because it's no longer here. But the truth is that the country is getting darker. The electoral process has become very Byzantine. Nobody believed that elections can deliver votes that bring about credibility, that they can be free and fair, and that it is the people you vote for that will get declared as winners of election. Of course, you've seen poverty. Yesterday, they said, this is from the Nigerian government, that from 81 million people who are in abject poverty, we have now moved to 139 million, and we have 200 million people. So we're not making progress. That's the truth, either politically, economically, culturally, and socially. I don't see.
Well, the government is disputing those sort of World Bank figures, and they would say to you, I'm sure you've heard them say it many times, that your view of this country is particularly melancholy and despairing.
Well, they've always said that, and I've never been wrong. They have been the ones who's been wrong. My position on politics, economy, in the way the justice system works has been, right. I remember in 2019 when I was arrested in the charge for treason, I made it clear. I said, nope, this is going nowhere. And that's what happened. One day they came and withdrew their charges. So when I said to you that elections are not free, fair, or credible, or that they are allocating votes, I'm not lying. When you look at it, you find out I'm right. So
I expect a lot of Nigerians would agree with you.
And on the issue of Nnamdi Kanu that we're talking about today, I've always stated that this trial was not going anywhere, and it hasn't gone anywhere. And that's why we're asking them to stop wasting resources, time, energy, and emotions on this, because the DSS spent millions of naira to come and carry out this charade in court. They have to lock up every street just to come and seek an adjournment.
And would you say that dark theme that you talk about that kind of overshadows this country has resonance for many Nigerians. I mean, you do have a huge following, but do they see this country as darkly as you do, and that sense that everything is about to explode?
They see it even more than I do. That's why they are living. That's why most Nigerians, whenever they have the slightest opportunity to leave Nigeria, you don't leave a place that is that's going to explode. I mean, that's making progress. You stay and wait for it to see the progress happen. If this place was promised land, people will be coming in. But because it is not, people are leaving, you know. The only people that are left in Nigeria are people who are stuck in Nigeria. Now, probably people who are dinosaurs who can't go anywhere because they can't sense danger.
But you're not stuck in Nigeria, are you?
I'm likely stuck. This is my passport since January. But even if my passport was not seized, I'll be here. You know, that's a decision I took a long time ago. Even though I have a right to move freely around the world, that I'm done with being, you know, having a career in being, you know, an exile or, you know, being in another person's country. Yeah, because why did we go there in the first place? We travel 12,000 miles just to go and drink drinkable water in America, enjoy electricity, drive on good roads, get good jobs, send our children to school. That's why we all leave this place. If we have that over here, nobody would be a second-class citizen in the UK or anywhere in Europe. Those are the basic reasons why we leave this place. We go and seek hospitals that work. We go and drive on roads that don't kill people. We don't want to live in darkness. We don't want our neighbors to cut our necks off because of insecurity. We don't want our police to jail us when we haven't committed any offense. That's the reason we leave. These are the basic reasons why Nigerians are living in droves. If those conditions are in place, people who have left will return by tomorrow. Some of them will return without taking a single bag of clothing to come back. But Nigeria has denied them that opportunity, and it is because of that darkness that is hovering over Nigeria almost perpetually, day and night, that people are living. That is their own way of expressing that things are not good here anymore.
I hope you heard what Sowore said concerning the release of this young man called Nnamdi Kanu. He needs justice. In fact, let this case concerning him be ended. Let's know where he is and the state of his health. Let him go to hospital. Let federal government release him so that he will get a proper medical attention and proper medical care. If nothing is found guilty against him. Yes, that is my own advice and my own contribution. Now, Nigerians want justice over this young man. I pray that God will preserve him. God will see him through over this period of challenges and trials. Because Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, most of the things he has said has already happened in this country. And he always says that the Southeast are being cheated. They are being marginalized. If you check some things going on in this country, you will still realize that the Southeast people are really marginalized. At least they have 5 states out of other regions having 60 states. Only that one enough will tell you that the Southeast people are truly marginalized. And remember, once the Southeast people can produce only 5 states, it will affect the number of their senators. It will also affect the number of their ministers. In fact, their federal opportunities will be short, and in fact, they will not get equal rights with other regions. So that is my own. That shows that they are being marginalized, and that is why Nnamdi Kanu is protesting for free and fair. Now, he wants his people to go. That is the conclusion. What do you have to say concerning this video? You can drop your own opinion in the comment section. Let's know what you think. For more videos and updates like this, subscribe to my channel. turn on the bell so that anytime I publish a new video, you will get notification to watch my new upload, to know the latest trends in this country. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.